This review is on the 2018 Bronson S build. The prices for this bike range anywhere from $32.99 for the aluminum build all the way up to $8,099 for the XX1 carbon build. The bike that I rode was priced at $4,899. This bike has 150 millimeters of travel front and rear. The suspension is provided by Fox with the Fox 36 in the front and the Float Performance DPS in the rear. The drivetrain is provided by SRAM. It's a GX Eagle 12-speed. It has the SRAM guide arm brakes. It comes with a race face handlebar and stem. The DT370 hubs front and rear and carbon rims. Maxxis Minion tires, the DHF 2.5 in the front and the DHR 2.4 in the rear. The dropper is a RockShox Reverb, and the saddle is a WTB Volt Race. I'm putting a couple of the key geometry specs on the screen for the extra large frame.
Out on the Luge again. This time it's the Santa Cruz demo day. And today I'm riding a Bronson, an extra large Bronson, 27.5-inch rims. And we're climbing up a long ass hill right now. This bike I'm definitely closer to the handlebars, maybe a shorter reach, and definitely a steeper seat tube angle. Same drivetrain. This actually has the XO1 Eagle. So a step up from the Kona in my bike, but pretty much the same thing. And it doesn't feel any easier to climb. Actually feels a little bit harder. How you doing? Section before the flag. Following Chris down the trail. That's riding good. could definitely feel a shorter reach though on this bike. And the steeper head tube angle. Feels good though. Woo. It's weird with the shorter reach, or it just feels like this bike doesn't turn as quickly as my bike does. I go wide on some turns. Need more gears. More gears, here we go. I gotta lean. I switch my feet and lean. Ooh, that jump seems bigger than last time. Thanks, man. Oh, come on, keep going. Not done yet. Got to get to the uphill section. Whew. That was fun. Bike felt really good, although the shorter reach, I'm pretty sure this bike has a shorter reach than my bike, and the head tube is definitely steeper. I could feel a difference coming down a couple of sections where I would just be cruising through. The bike was pulling me a little bit. Ow.
Okay, so the Santa Cruz Bronson, what did I think? The first thing I want to mention is that I really like about Santa Cruz is they are a larger name brand company here in the U.S. And one of the things that they do is they do offer entry-level aluminum framed bikes, which is really good because I mean that could save you anywhere from $1,500 to say $3,000 on a good bike, and you can still get really good components. So I like that Santa Cruz does that. Not all manufacturers do. So the components on this bike were pretty good. For almost $5,000, you would expect that they're going to put some good stuff on it. The suspension was all Fox. The Fox suspension, and works really great. It also came with the GX, not the GX, I'm sorry, it came with the Eagle drivetrain, which was the X01. That's a great drivetrain. It's my favorite drivetrain over the Shimano stuff. Came with Maxxis tires. I have Maxxis tires on my bike. The only thing that I came with that I didn't like are the brakes. I'm not a big fan of SRAM brakes. I've tried the levels, I've tried the guides, I've tried the RSCs. They're just too progressive for me, but that's just my take on brakes. Everybody's different. I like the XT brakes, the Shimano XT brakes. But the components are great. So the bike has 150 millimeters of travel, and that's a fair amount. That's pushing the edge of the trail bike. Just like that's like a bottom for an enduro bike. Usually enduro bikes 150 to 170. Trail bikes are anywhere from 120 to 150. So this is like at the upper end. Very similar to the high tower long travel bike that they have as well. The geometry of the bike is kind of an in-between. Santa Cruz has so many models, and each one has a small tweak of the geometry. This one is, like I said, the travel is close to an enduro bike. Also, the head tube angle, the seat tube angle, all of those key features are like borderline enduro bike, kind of trail, so a little bit more upright, a little shorter wheelbase than a typical enduro bike. So you squish everything in. So you sit up a little bit higher. Like I said, the wheelbase is shorter, so it's supposed to make it easier to climb, to ride and to climb. Now the downhill, that's a whole different thing, but it's supposed to be easier to climb. So when I first got on the bike, it's a Santa Cruz bike. Santa Cruz makes great bikes, and it felt really good. It's a demo bike, so it's taken a little bit of a beating. There are a couple of little creaks here and there. That's probably just dirt accumulating in the seat post, a little bit of wear and tear on the drivetrain, that kind of stuff. But the bike felt really good. It comes with a WTB saddle. So climbing with this bike, I did this demo over by the Luge, which is a trail I've ridden several times. I've ridden the Luge on my Trans X. I've ridden the Luge a bunch of times with my Rain. I've done a couple demos over there. I've ridden the Transition bike on the Luge. That was a Transition Sentinel. I've also ridden the, what was the other one? I did the Kona Process over there on the Luge as well. This bike had the Eagle drivetrain, had the X01 level of the drivetrain, so it's got the 10x50 rear cassette in the back. It did have a 32 tooth chainring in the front. Now on my bike, I have that 10x50 cassette in the rear, but I have a 30 tooth chainring, and it doesn't sound like a lot, but the Bronson had the 32 in the front, and it was just that small bit of difference that made it a little bit harder to climb the hills. Like, I assumed that this bike, it had me a little bit more upright, a little bit shorter wheelbase, that it would be easier to climb. I mean, that's supposed to be, you know, that's the difference between a cross-country bike and an enduro bike. But I don't feel that way. I'm used to climbing on an enduro bike, and as long as you have the right drivetrain, you know, all of that kind of stuff, it doesn't make that big of a difference to me. So this bike, the Bronson, it didn't feel any better climbing the hills than, say, you know, a Nomad or my Rain. So I kind of some of those numbers kind of get thrown out the window as long as you have, you know, apples to apples as far as drivetrain and wheel size and comparably similar weights. Those small little tweaks, like, you know, 1 degree here, 1 degree there, I don't think is that big of a deal. Now, going down the luge on this bike, it was it's not that it was bad. It was just, I think because of the shorter wheelbase, I was kind of understeering. So at the top, it took a couple turns to get used to it. But I was understeering and I kept going wide a little bit, which was, I don't know. It's probably just me. I'm not the greatest rider in the world. Never claimed to be. If you watch any of my riding videos, you know I'm average at best. But this bike, once I got used to the feel of it, because, you know, you're sitting higher in it, it's not as slacked out as like a typical enduro bike. It was going good, you know. Like I use Strava all the time, and of course this was the only time I've ever ridden this Bronson, and I only had one chance to go down the main part of the luge trail on it. I was only 10 seconds behind my fastest time on my Rain. So, you know, you can get used to anything. If I rode the Bronson enough, I could probably get faster than my Rain, and then, you know, that's just you know, my skill, hopefully my skill level improving and going a little crazier. I was pushing pretty hard on the Bronson on this trail, but I mean, it felt good going downhill. Like I said, it was just a little more upright. I felt a little higher in the seat than I normally would. I mean, even with the seat dropped all the way down to the bottom, the dropper post, I didn't feel like I was far back enough on the bike. I felt a little too far forward on it just because of the shorter reach and shorter top tube and you know, the headset angle and all that kind of stuff. It felt good, but not as, you know, not as good as my Rain or a real enduro bike would. So my final thoughts. My final thoughts are Santa Cruz is a great company. They make really good bikes. My friend Derek, he has a Chameleon, which is a hardtail. He loves it. He's looking at buying another Santa Cruz bike. One, because he really likes the company. Two, because, you know, they're a U.S. company. I'm not sure if their frames are made in the U.S. I would assume so. Most likely. I'll have to look it up. But, you know, they make great bikes, and the Bronson is a really good bike. And the only problem I have with Santa Cruz in general is that they have so many bike models that it's hard to differentiate. You know, like this bike has 150 mil travel, and so does the Hightower LT. And I mean, the geometry on those two bikes might be, you know, a half degree difference here, 1 degree difference there, a couple more millimeters longer here, a couple millimeters longer there. So it kind of makes it hard to really hone in on a bike. Now, sure, if you had all the money in the world and you could buy, I don't know, however many models they have, 5 or 6 models, you could ride them all for a couple of weeks and really dial in a bike. Yeah, I'm sure that would be great, because, you know, if you had that time and that amount of money, yeah, you could do that. But the typical person like me, I mean, my Rain 2 is the first real brand new bike I've ever bought, and it was a lot of money, and I probably won't be buying another new bike for a while, so that one's gonna have to do me. But, you know, I love it. I rode a couple of other models, a couple of giant models. I already have a Trans. I like the bike, so that's I mean, I guess it's good and it's bad at the same time. Like I said, my friend Derek, he wants to get a mid-travel, but he can't decide. He can't decide on a 5010 or the regular high tower, or I think he was even looking at the Bronson too, but the Bronson's a little bit longer. He was looking, 120, 130 range. So it's good that you have all those choices, and at the same time it's bad that you have all those choices, because it's really hard to like pull the trigger on a single bike. But like I said, I like the company. The guys that were at the demo were super nice. I was talking to them. They've ridden a bunch of trails. I was actually talking to them about going up to Santa Cruz and riding some of the trails there, and they gave me some pointers and some info on that as well. So great company, great bikes. Thanks for watching my video. Please don't forget to give me a thumbs up and a like down below. Something else you can do to help me out would be to share, comment, and subscribe to my channel if you like what you've seen here today. Please click on one of these boxes up in the corners here. One will take you to my rides playlist. The other one will take you to a recent video. And always, you can click on the logo in the center, the Urban Outdoorsman SoCal logo, to subscribe. Thanks a lot.